Hi everyone, my name is Benita Wang and I am excited to be here today to share with you my journey in ISM this past year. A little bit more about me. I am an ISM 1 student from Independence High School and I am an aspiring clinical psychologist. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to express my thankfulness to my mentor, Ms. Vernon. She's a district social worker for FISD and is a true source of inspiration for me. To start off, I would like to introduce you to a quote by Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it is done. As I reflect upon my experiences in ISM this year, I realized how many challenges I have faced, how much work I have done, and how I have a true passion for clinical psychology. I first discovered my interest in psychology in elementary school when one of my closest friends was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. But as sympathy and anxiety filled my heart, I also realized that I could not do anything for her. It was then that I started to think about what kind of person I really wished to become in the future, and I soon found the answer, which was to study clinical psychology and help those who struggle with mental health disorders, just like my friend did. Through the Independent Study and Mentorship Program, I aim to gain real-world experience in the clinical psychology field under the guidance of a mentor and improve my skills in communication and professionalism. While focusing entirely on gaining a deeper understanding of clinical psychology, I hope to not only be inspired to further discover my talents and passion, but also contribute to the clinical psychology field using my own strengths. So, what is clinical psychology? Clinical psychology is the assessment, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of mental health disorders. Unfortunately, oftentimes dealing with mental and emotional problems, clinical psychologists' own moods can be affected easily. In addition, although mental well-being is equally important as physical health, it is not being talked about enough in society. I started my year by researching the treatments for mental health disorders, and I focused on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which I will talk more about later. Then I moved on to explore the diagnosis of mental health disorders, and I ended my journey by learning more about the importance of self-care. Throughout the year, I interviewed 6 professionals, including experienced clinical psychologists, assessment specialists, and social workers. I also read journal articles, organized mental health resources, and brainstormed ways to increase mental health awareness. All my work came together and formed my original work and eventually my final product, the Santa Milling Project. This is a website that aims to raise mental health awareness and spread kindness. There are 6 key elements to this initiative: resources, database, programs, self-care, quotes, and stories. Before I go on to talk about each of the elements, feel free to scan this QR code to follow along. Okay, so let's take a look at the resources page first. This page contains downloadable documents that provide information on 3 categories of psychological topics: general information, treatments, and diagnosis. Under general information, some basic psychological concepts are introduced. For example, the one that is now up on the website is defining abnormal behaviors, which is one of the major themes of abnormal psychology and clinical psychology. According to the DSM-5, which is a book published by the American Psychiatric Association that provides diagnostic criteria for mental health disorders, abnormal behaviors can be identified by dysfunction, distress, and deviance. Dysfunction refers to the breakdown in cognition, emotion, and behavior. For instance, if one has major depressive disorder, more commonly known as depression, their depressed mood would be an emotional breakdown, and their difficulty concentrating would be an example of cognitive breakdown. When one has separation anxiety disorder, their refusal to leave home would be an example of behavioral breakdown. Distress means that the behavior causes pain and suffering, which oftentimes disrupts normal life functioning. If one has social anxiety disorder, their fear to speak in public impairs their ability to interact with others normally, bringing even more pain and anxiety, which would be an example of distress. Lastly, deviance is when a behavior seems unusual or strange to most people in the community. Next, under the treatments category, some major psychotherapeutic approaches are introduced. The one on the website right now is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It refers to the process of identifying and changing the errors in thinking people have. As an example, let's say that one day I got a 50 on my chemistry test, even though I studied really hard for it. And if I'd be more negative, I would probably feel really sad and think that I don't have the capability to learn chem well. However, CBT would guide me to ask myself what I'm thinking when I feel sad and if what I'm thinking is right. Then I'll probably realize that maybe it's not that I don't have the ability to learn chemistry, but that I need to find a better studying method that suits my learning style. Notice how by changing the way I think, I would become a lot happier and feel more encouraged. This is exactly how effective CBT is. Lastly, under the category of diagnosis, the diagnostic criteria on the DSM-5 for some mental health disorders are simplified. Because my website is built for the general public, providing a simple checklist with key diagnostic criteria included would help people identify and understand their symptoms better and get help in a timely manner if needed. Overall, the resources page mainly serves to educate and raise mental health awareness and is a tab that can be continuously developed in the future. Next, let's take a look at the database. This involves a collaboration between the Santa Building Project and Magnify Wellness, a nonprofit that aims to provide free mental health resources through an app, mentorship, and a chapter program. This is a database that has over 1,000 resources ranging from support groups, music, books, informational articles, etc., and is also updated almost every month. Anyone can take a look at it at any time and find something they need. Now moving on to the Programs tab. This is where the name of the website, the Santa Building Project, came from. I like to think about it as doing a secret Santa. You can sign up to receive some kind words, then you'll receive some kind words. Similarly, you can submit kind notes, which could be delivered to anyone that submitted a request. Another feature is that you can write a letter to your future self and be more mindful of the present. Next, the self-care tab. This is a page that emphasizes the connection between emotions and behaviors and advocates self-care. Each emotion is linked to a poem and a suggested activity to perform, so this page helps people better identify their feelings and validate their feelings. On the quotes page, anyone can submit an original quote, and whenever one needs it, they can come on here to find some encouragement and inspiration. Lastly, the stories page. Here, I interview people who have experienced mental struggles and recoveries and publish blog posts regarding their real stories. I believe in the power of storytelling, and many other people do as well. So I wish to use this page as an opportunity to help people understand that mental health struggles are nothing to feel ashamed of, and that they are topics that can be discussed openly without any bias. So far, I have interviewed 2 people, and when being asked to give some advice to people who struggle with mental health, they both said that you're not alone. As they said, I would tell them that they're not alone and that there is always someone who cares, whether they realize it or not. Mental health struggles do not render you incapable. When I had those conversations with them, when I listened to their stories, I started to consider the real purpose of my project. This is a project that I built with love, and when I finished and looked back at it, I can see the love and passion I have for the people around me, for this world, and for everything I'm doing. I suddenly understood that I am on the right path because this is the path I chose for myself. Now, I would like to bring back the quote I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation again. It always seems impossible until it is done. I want to make this world a kinder place, and I know that I am doing it. Thank you.